Hello and welcome to yesterday's airlines. The year rolls on to its inevitable conclusion, and we've got a couple more release ranking videos to fill out 2024. In today's video, it is the JC Wings December announcements, of which there are 18 distinct models plus the usual flaps up and down variants. JC haven't had the most spectacular year, but each month there's one or two models which stand out as being pretty damn good, and this month is no different to that. I have to say that it's not been my most prolific year buying JC Wings models this year. So far this year I've got 10, which actually is kind of on par with most years in the recent history. The last time I got more than 11 was in 2019 when I actually bought 20, so that must have been a good year. But 10, it's not bad. It's not approaching the same sort of size I acquire Aero Classics or NG models or Panda, but it's around the sort of same level that Phoenix have got themselves up to nowadays. It's okay. I do still hold out quite a lot of hope though for JC, because I've seen some of the models they're going to be producing in the future, and they look more interesting from my perspective. So keep an eye out for JC Wings and what they're up to next year. I think there'll be a more diverse set, and that can only be a good thing. Okay, great. Now, before we get on to the video, can you make sure that you have chucked a like on this video if you're enjoying it, and subscribe to the channel, and check me out at Yester Airlines on Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank everyone who watches the videos and reads my content. Really appreciate that. If you haven't seen it already, then don't forget to check out the video I just posted a few days back of the Patriot Models 747 unboxing the tanker, the KC-33. That's a really cool model. And there's lots of more cool content like that coming up soon. But for now, let's get on and see what JC are giving us for December. So this month there's quite a large number of future models, 6 plus some flaps up and down variants. So we've just got 12 standard models to talk about, and 10 of those have got artwork or models that are completed already, and 2 of them have not. The mix is actually quite good, and we've got a reasonable amount of diversity here, and just the single Airbus to start with. And the Airbus is a good and interesting choice. It is another A300 600 ST Beluga, for which JC Wings has a mold that they introduced in 2022. This is the third Beluga that they have announced this year, for 4 overall using this new mold. And the only other company that's got or had a Beluga mold was Dragon Wings, and that's obviously quite old, though it's not a bad addition. This one looks really good. I've not got to acquire any of it yet. It's interactive, so the cargo door opens, and that's cool. The reason I haven't acquired any so far is because none of them are wearing the older liveries that the Beluga had, and is arguably better known for before the Beluga XL came along. This one is in a Toulouse 2013, I say scheme, but really the aircraft is largely white. So it's about Toulouse being the capital of European, or a candidate for the capital of European culture in 2013. It's pretty enough, I guess, but certainly not going to win any awards. And on one side of the aircraft, it's basically blank. It's just on the port side that you've actually even got the logo. I'm pretty sure this was made by Dragon previously at some point in time. I think in 2008, so there is an older version floating around, but these are super hard to find on the Dragon mold. I'm going to put this one up in High Flyer. The scheme's pretty ordinary, but the aircraft is pretty cool, and the mold looks really good. I am looking forward to seeing some of the older liveries, at which point I probably will pick up 1 or 2 of these. Now into the Boeings, and we've got a trio of 737s, the first up of which is an Air New Zealand Series 300 ZK NGA. This is one of the first 733s that Air New Zealand got, because they bought really late production 737-300s around the millennium, and this is what this scheme actually celebrates. It celebrates the millennium. I think it dates from like 99 or something like that. And this scheme has been made before as well. It has been made by Aero Classics in 2013. I own that model already on what is now the Panda mould, which is a bit better, though the Aero Classics version also doesn't have aerials and a simple gear and such. This one, again, it'll be fine. The JC 737-300 mould, yeah, it's not the best in the universe, but it's not bad, and I'm going to put this one up into Workhorse. Incidentally, this is the third Air New Zealand 737-300 that they have made in recent times. Next up, we've got an OK Airways 737-800 B1732. The only real difference between this one and previous OK releases is that this one has a grey nose, so we're kind of plumbing the depths somewhat here. It's also worth pointing out that JC Wings have made quite a few of these. In fact, they've made 4, 3 of which wear basically this scheme. And they date from 2018 to 2024, and yet the part numbers intermingle, which clearly tells me all these models were made a long time ago and have been sitting in the warehouse. So it doesn't look that great, I have to say. When you look at the images, the mould has serious limitations and is obsolete. And I do believe JC are working on a replacement, but haven't seen the evidence for that yet. I'm just going to put this one down into Gas Guzzler. And the last 737 of the month is a release for Blue Air of Romania, which I believe is no longer with us and has gone bankrupt. This is a 737 MAX 8. It has the registration YR Mike X-Ray Echo. They made Mike X-Ray Charlie or at least they released it in April this year, and this one's in December. So these two were made together and are just being slipped out. Nothing to see here. Looks okay, but Workhorse. Following a trio of 737s, we now have a trio of 747s, which is pretty cool. And 2 of these are quite interesting in the sense that they're not the sort of models that JC's been releasing much recently. First one is a Series 400, presumably on, I hope anyway, on the new mould, though there's no flaps down version going with it, which does lead you to question it a little bit. It's Singapore Airlines, Megatop 9V Sierra Papa Mike. No images of the finished model, so I can't really see what mould is going on, but I'm assuming it's going to be on the new or the relatively new 747-400 mould that they have, in which case it should be really nice. Hasn't been a lot of Singapore Airlines releases in recent times, but there have been a couple by JC in their EW, fake line, 2019, 2022, and to be honest, both of those were on the old mould. So I really hope this one isn't. I guess we'll find out eventually. I'm not sure quite when this one's going to come out since we haven't got any images of it. Hopefully it's on the new mould, and if it is, then it's worthy of a high flyer. The next aircraft is a Series 300. This one is in the colours of Swiss Air. The registration is HB India Golf Foxtrot. And again, not 100% certain what mould this is going to be on, but presumably it's going to be on the Witty Wings or Big Birdie Series 300 mould, and should be very similar, therefore, to the 2014 released Apollo version, which I own already. That is a really nice model. This one should be also really nice, and presumably will have aerials fitted, which the 2014 one didn't. So, yeah, it should be another really nice release, and the sort of thing that doesn't get made very often. Having said that, it should be pretty much exactly the same as the Apollo I own. I'm going to put this one into Workhorse, which is harsh because it probably could be a high flyer, but hard to rate these when I haven't seen the actual moulds they're going to be on. The last 747 of the month is a Series 8 freighter. This one is in the colours of Saudia Cargo, HZA13. It's interactive, which is always quite cool. And it looks pretty nice from the pictures I'm seeing. There has been previous coverage here. Gemini made a Series 8 FAIH in 2016, but that wasn't interactive, and this one is. For those who really like cargo airlines and like interactive releases, yeah, these add a lot of interest and detail, and I'm willing to put this one up in high fly despite the subject matter being Saudi. Okay, that leaves us two Boeings to talk about, one 767 and one 787. Now, the 767 is a model I really should be keen on, but I'm not. It's a Continental 767-400, and you know, I really like Continental 767-400s, and it's been annoying that we haven't had one for so long because it's almost a classic 764. The problem, of course, here is that I really just don't rate this mould. I really don't rate it. It's really disappointing. I just don't like it. There's so many issues with it. And it's so inferior to the Panda Models mould and the NG Models mould as well that it just can't bring myself to look at it as a viable purchase. There have been previous Continental 764s made, one by Herpa in 2005, one by Dragon in 2000. And arguably the Dragon one, which is 24 years old, is going to be better than this one because the mould is actually better. Now, the biggest issue with the mould, in my opinion, is the undercarriage, but the engines really don't help. It's just not a very good 767. Tail cone's pretty poor as well. Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. But the subject matter here is at least cool. I put it into workhorse, and I have been beginning to gas guzzle these JC and Gemini 767-400s because the mould, albeit being relatively new, is just so poor. But I'll put this one in the workhorse because of the subject matter. I really hope that we get to see some Panda Models Continental 767-400s in the near future, and not just these JC Wings versions. And the next model is deeply uninspiring, in my opinion. This is for Air Japan. Japanese airlines have such tedious names, and they're all just subsidiaries of All Nippon and Japan Airlines anyway. I can't even remember which one Air Japan is a subsidiary of. It's got a pretty tidy but boring scheme, and it just doesn't do much for me, to be honest. And this isn't even the first time that JC have announced some Air Japan. This one comes in flaps up, flaps down. There was also a flaps up, flaps down release of JA803 Alpha this year. This is JA801 Alpha. Yeah, it's that exciting. Going to split these into workhorse. Now, the Boeings there were relatively lackluster, apart from the potential in the 747s. But we are now moving on to what is clearly the model of the month by a country mile, and that is an MD-90. And it is an MD-90 in the colours, a classic, you know, a really classic scheme, really nice livery, and that is Scandinavian Airline System. The reg is LNROB. It looks, judging from the box, that there's going to be another one of these coming along soon. You can't have too many. This Scandinavian livery is so iconic and so underproduced in 400 scale, mainly because nobody's producing MD-80s with it on, and sort of thing just infuriates you. NG's usage of their MD-80 mould, and the fact that they don't think a Scandinavian is clearly worthy of production. Not going there, but it is great to see JC Wings put an MD-90 out there. MD-90 mould is much better than their MD-80 mould, and Scandinavian were one of the few customers for this in the 90 in Europe. This looks like a really nice model, and one which has to be bought. So this one is definitely up there in supersonic territory. It's an iconic livery on a great airliner, good mould, and massively underrepresented in the scale. Slam dunk, supersonic. Okay, two more models to discuss in the models which are coming soon area of the release set, and both of these are actually models that have already come, in the sense that they're both YU model releases that have been available in China for a while, or at least One of them is YU models, and one of them has kind of just been available in the Chinese market for a while. And now they're both getting official releases through JC. First one up is a China Xinjiang ATR 72 B3026. I've owned this model for a little while. It's not bad, and it's good to see a China Xinjiang ATR 72. But like I say, it's been available in China for a while. I have to say also the cockpit print on this one isn't ideal, but it's not dreadful. I'm going to put this one into Workhorse. If it was completely new and I had never seen it before, it would be getting a higher score. Likewise, the other model has been released by YU model. It's a China Air Force CRJ 700 B4061. Again, it's a model I own. I already own the YU release on it. It's a nice release, good looking little airliner, but it is a re-release. So I'm going to put that one into Workhorse as well. And that leaves us with just the models that are future releases to discuss, of which there are 6. A couple of these are Cathay Pacific 747-400s in flaps up and down, so definitely using the newer mould. First one, BHOX, is in the spirit of Hong Kong colours. Really nice livery, and should be really nice on the new 747-400 mould. The other one is BHOY, Asia's World City. Likewise, attractive scheme and should be on the newer mould. So these both have got a lot of potential, and I'm going to put them both into high flyer, and they both come in flaps up and down. Next we have a 757-200. This one is Aer Lingus, which never really strikes me as a real 75 operator, but obviously was. I'm not saying they didn't operate them, but it just seems like hardly iconic. And it's towards the end, obviously, of the reign of the 757. I think Aer Lingus were releasing some of these to go across the Atlantic. This one, EILBT, is registration. It is not the first Aer Lingus 757 in 400 scale, and it won't be as good as the one that already exists, which is made by NG Models. But that is quite an old model. It was released in 2018, EILBS that was. So if you missed out, it's probably very hard to find. But not so, yeah, I can't really get excited with this one. I'm going to put this one into Workhorse. It's solid, but the JC 757 doesn't really compete that well with the NG. Next up is an all-Nippon 767-300 with winglets, JA627. Again, this one's hardly unusual and not exactly a model which has never been released before. There have been plenty of all-Nippon 767s in the past, and this one is just another in that list. Nothing wrong with that, but there have been quite a few. Phoenix made JA622 Alpha in 2022. This one's JA627 Alpha. Otherwise, I think they're pretty much the same. There have been plenty of others, though lots of them were special schemes, I admit. Before that, in fact, there have been over 50, which is a huge number. Again, it's just a Workhorse model. It's inoffensive. It's not bad. It's be fine, but it's not great. 2 models left to go, and the next one is a Korean MD-11 HL7373. Again, it's be fine. It'll be fine. The JC MD-11 is a perfectly fine mold, but not a great one. Korean have also been released on the MD-11 by Phoenix this year with 2 models. And as I said in the Phoenix video, you've got to start thinking that it's time to call time on these old MD-11 molds now that we've got a Panda mold coming out and also one from HX models. So I'm looking at these with a slightly sterner look than I would have historically. I'm going to put this one into Workhorse, partly because it's been re-released by Phoenix recently, but also because it simply is likely to get a better release from Panda or someone in a reasonable timescale. So it doesn't seem to be a big reason to buy this, especially since it's being touted as a future model here, not an upcoming near release. Last model of the month, Turkish Airlines 777-300ER TC Lima Juliet Hotel, and this one's got a special scheme on it, a biofuel scheme with pictures of leaves and biofuel over it. There have been lots of Turkish 777-300 ERs, 17 others in fact, quite a lot of them from NG models. And yeah, not really sure there's much to say about this. It'll be fine. And I actually quite like the look of the scheme, the green leaves, it looks quite nice. I'll put this one in the high flyer. Very generous, I feel, but it's fine. And that rounds up a look at this month's JC Wings releases. It's kind of like most months with JC. You've got a smattering of models which are very similar to ones they've made previously or almost exactly the same. You've got some interactive 7.4s which are similar to Gemini versions that have been made that weren't interactive. You've got a little bit of regional traffic. You've got some future models which who knows when they're going to show up. And then you've got one or two really interesting and different models which make the release stand out a little bit. And for me this month, those standout models are the Beluga, even though the schemes are very exciting, the SAS MD90, obviously, and potentially the Singapore 747-400 if it gets on the new mold. Those ones are really standing out for me as probably the top releases. If you didn't see the China Xinjiang in its previous China-only release, then you could probably get one of those, and that would be a great model too. There's something in this set, but it's not flabbergasting me. I'm not sitting there going, wow, this is an amazing set. It's very JC-like, which isn't necessarily a massive criticism, but at the same time, it's not really exciting me. The only one here which is really hitting the mark for me is that SAS MD90. Okay, well, we've still got at least one more of these videos to do before Christmas because NG have announced their release set, so I will be getting around to that. But for now, that is it, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time round. Goodbye.